Well, those are very incredible stories, and we are here to remember him. I know you've just recently come back from Robben Island. Can you tell us about what you were doing there?
I had a wonderful trip out there, sitting all the time next to one of his fellow inmates, Eddie Daniels, who I met many years ago as a young activist. I was a young activist. He had been fairly recently released from Robben Island. He spent 15 years on the island with Madiba. So he was telling me these stories, some of which I've heard him tell in a slightly bigger forum, and others which were totally new to me. And they are intimate, powerful, powerful stories about, I mean, I was talking about Madiba becoming the most famous person on the planet and the one of the best loved and all that. But that already began when he was on the island. I mean, he was already an important ANC activist and leader. On the island, he found something else in himself that really he kind of dug deep. And there he was already, had huge status being there. Eddie Daniels was saying how as an activist who had been, he was the only one from his party, from the Liberal Party. He was kind of ostracized by some of the ANC people, and the ANC people were the most kind of, they had the most status in some way, and then Madiba and all of his cadres, and then there were a whole lot of other organizations. Eddie Daniels was all by himself, and Madiba one time actually he was ill, Eddie, and Madiba went and got his bucket, the bucket that they had in the cells, took the 2 buckets under his arm, went and emptied them, cleaned his bucket, brought his bucket back to him. I mean, that's the kind of person. He said he always could have got other people to do things, and he did it himself. I mean, he's really a sort of superhuman person.
Wow. And what was the feeling like being on the island so shortly after his passing?
You know, at the moment of his passing away, I was unprepared. I heard about it about 45 minutes after the announcement, which is a couple of more hours after he actually died, and I was very, very upset, but I felt unprepared, because this year we've been prepared on other occasions, and I think this time round I just wasn't kind of ready. But since then, it's really felt most of the time like, I mean, there's just this fantastic celebration of Madiba as a person. And I've heard people comparing it with what happened when John F. Kennedy was shot. There's a president who had some great qualities, was shot in the prime of his life. It was absolutely awful. But Madiba was 95.
Yeah.
In many ways, we've been ready for this in some way or another for over the past decade. Certainly over the past 5 years.
Right.
And so being on the island was really about memory and celebration rather than sadness. That's how I felt. And hearing Eddie Daniels and hearing these other people talk about Madiba, it was incredibly inspiring to me.